This is Michael Cowen, and welcome to Trial Lawyer Nation.
You are the leader in the courtroom, and you want the jury to be looking to you for the answers.
When you figure out your theory, never deviate.
You want the facts to be consistent, complete, and credible.
The defense has no problem running out the clock. Delay is the friend of the defense.
It's tough to grow a firm by trying to hold on and micromanage.
You've got to front load a simple structure for jurors to be able to hold on to.
What types of creative things can we do as lawyers, even though we don't have a trial setting?
Whatever you've got to do to make it real, you've got to do to make it real. But the person who needs convincing is you.
Welcome to the award-winning podcast, Trial Lawyer Nation, your source to win bigger verdicts, get more cases, and manage your law firm. And now, here's your host, noteworthy author, sought-after speaker, and renowned trial lawyer, Michael Cowen.
Welcome to today's episode of Trial Lawyer Nation. I am joined by my partner, Malorie Peacock. Malorie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here again.
I'm glad to have you back. I mean, I get to talk to you all the time, but it is nice to share you. Today, we're going to talk about things we've come up with to make sure that we keep our focus on our biggest cases. But before we dive in, I want to say a thank you and give a shout out to LawPods. LawPods sponsors this podcast. They're also nice enough to produce it, to do all the little cuts we need, to do our social media ads, to make it sound nice, to edit out all the times that we misspeak or say a bad word that we didn't mean to say. And so they make it really easy. So if you want to do your own podcast, which is a lot of fun, I know we had an episode with Rob recently on how you can actually maybe get cases doing podcasts. I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Now that the bills are paid, let's talk about Malorie. Why is it we have to worry about focusing on our biggest cases? It seems like that would just come naturally. I mean, that's where you're going to make your most money, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd think, but the reality is in this practice that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And a lot of times the squeakiest wheel is, for some reason, maybe it's only me, but for some reason it's always the hardest case, the case I'm not going to make any money on, the case that was an intake mistake that we shouldn't even have. And that seems to be drawing my attention the most.
Yeah, there were two things that really hit me, and I don't know if you joined the firm yet. I remember one year I looked back and I'd done all this work on a case, and I remember it was like the other vehicle was coming from the left side. There was a big liability dispute, and then we found out like 2 years into it that my client had the lens removed from his left eye, who didn't disclose it from us, which was a big problem on liability, and then supposedly had a brain injury and couldn't even follow like a TV show, but yet he would drive, and then the family said, well, he'd only drive with us in the car, but he won't stop. Well, then there's video of him like driving, dropping off the wife, taking the granddaughter to go eat, dropping off the granddaughter, picking up the granddaughter, picking up the wife again. It's like the whole case fell apart.
Right.
And I realized like I've been spending like the majority of my time working on cases where I'm just trying to get my expenses back and not working enough on my big cases. And that realization just really hit me. And then I remember it was Tim Mackey from Vista told me, we've talked about the Pareto principle, I think, before, where they say like 80% of your efforts come from 20% of your work. And he said that it's either Tim or Chad Dudley from Dudley to Bossier that said in PI, more than half of your results come from 5% of your cases. And I went back and did the math. I went and I've done this repeatedly, and you've seen it. We look at our cases, and most years, more than 50% of our income comes from 5% of our cases, which is a very small number. And so we've really had to look at, how do we go and focus to maximize that 5%, maximize the value, and then minimize the time on desk? How can we get that 5% to fund faster, get our clients paid faster, while getting, every possible penny on the case?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, too, there's more joy, at least for me, that comes from doing the creative work on the big cases. And unfortunately, because our practice is constantly full of meetings and depositions and hearings and all kinds of things that you have to prioritize every single day, prioritizing the creative work becomes hard unless you make efforts to do that. And it ends up that it feels like you're just checking boxes every day. Okay, I did this hearing. Okay, I filed this motion that I file in every case. And the creative work is what makes the big money on the cases.
Yeah, I think one of our first steps, I guess, in moving in this direction was I guess about 5.5, almost 6 years ago, when I finally read the book, The Four Disciplines of Execution, and it talked about the concept of the whirlwind, which is you have big things you want to get done, but you keep getting sucked into this whirlwind of all the little things that have to be done every day, but they add up and they take all your time, and you can end up spending all your time doing little things and never get to the big things. And that happens to me sometimes still to this day when I'm not just very proactive about intentionally scheduling my day and making sure I schedule things. And so, we realized even back then when we first started what we call our 4DX or 4 Disciplines of Execution meetings, that we have to find time to focus on the big things, the things that actually move the ball forward in a big way. The little things will drown out our ability to do the big things, and then we're rushed and we're not creative. And so it really does happen. And so we, started then. I think we've improved since then, but really making sure that we commit to taking the time to work on our biggest cases. We identify them, and then we hold each other accountable to make sure that we're really doing it. Because I think it's so easy to make excuses to put it off, and that public accountability when you have a law firm is such a big thing too.
Yeah. So I think recently you read a book. Is it called Traction?
Traction, yeah.
Okay. And so you came to us with this idea of how are we going to, for years, we've been telling each other, we need to focus on our big cases. We need to focus on our big cases. We need to focus on our big cases. And we all know that, right? I mean, we know it, but how do we make sure that we do it? And you came to us with an idea. I don't know if you want to share it with the listeners.
Yeah, sure. And the analogy they use in Traction is rocks. And I came and said, we got to set our rocks. And everyone's looking at me, what are you talking about? Because I forgot. Like, I read a book and I forget that everyone else hasn't read it. And so they use an analogy in the book Traction, which is a great book. It's a huge sales pitch for something called EOS, or Entrepreneur Operating System. But it's very, very useful, and it's honestly something you and I need to talk about this, but probably something we'll look at doing in 2025. We've already paid our consultants to work with us in 24, but I think that's like the next step in our evolution is getting EOS and implemented, because I'm seeing some of it in the Beacom and Cowen entity, because our COO there has gone through it at another firm, and it's just amazing. But the idea is, you think of the analogy, if you have a big glass jar, and you have like some big rocks, you have some pebbles, you have some sand, you have some water. So if you put the water in first, and then the sand, and then pebbles, you can't fit any rocks in. I mean, the jar is already full. So the analogy is, if you start your day and you just kind of let all the little things take up your day, and you don't make room for your big things won't fit in your day. But if you put the rocks in first, and that way you make sure there's room for the rocks, then you put in the gravel, it fills in the space that's left. Then you fill in the sand, it fills in the space that's left between the pieces of gravel. And then you put the water in, it fills in the space between the pieces of sand. And what it's, the analogy is that if you get the big things there done first, and then the things of secondary importance, that little things will fit in. They'll still get done. And if they don't get done, then they're not that important, or you need to delegate them to someone else anyway. And so we've been trying to apply that on our own, and we sat around and we thought about, look, how can we do this to make sure that our teams are, consistently working on their biggest cases and doing meaningful things, like not just answering discovery or defending depositions, but meaningful things to move cases forward.
Right. I think step one, and I think this is probably the hardest step, is to identify what your biggest cases are, because it can't be all of them, right? And
Right.
It can't be so many that it would be an impossible task. You can't say, okay, I'm going to work on my top 10 cases every week, because then it's just too many things. So you have to decide on a good number of things. We decided that it would be 3 cases, our top 3 cases. Could be different for everybody, but I think 3 is a good number, because you don't want to have so many huge things you need to get done in a week that then it becomes impossible, and then it's a useless task, right? You have a long list of to-dos that can just never be done. I mean, you have too many rocks to fit in the jar. So
Exactly.
So we chose the number 3. So we all had to decide on our top 3 cases. And we had to kind of pick and choose. Some cases look about even, and you just kind of look at it and say, okay, but where is really focusing on this case going to add value? Which one of these can I add value to by extra focus? And you just got to choose.
Not with you, but with other people. I had to do a little coaching. I mean, people would identify their 3 biggest cases, and I'd say, this person has a huge injury, but there's $1 million insurance policy, and there's 7 people that got hurt in the crash.
Right.
unless there's an excess policy, I don't think this is one of your 7 biggest cases, because although, yes, if we tried the case, this would be a big verdict, but unfortunately we're in a horrible situation where the best thing for the client may be to get the case settled before everyone else takes the money, not to work it up and let anyone else, while everyone else takes the money, and then we get a Pyrrhic victory and get very little or nothing for the client. In other cases, like, hey, this is a bigger case, and just meeting with people, letting them go pick themselves, but then looking at it and giving them some coaching until we could agree on what the 3 biggest cases were. I think that's been a valuable exercise for me, but also for them and the other lawyers at our firm in learning what it is, what those are. And then, things change too. I mean, you think something's your 3 biggest cases, and then you find out from one month to another something really good happened on one of your other cases, or something really bad happened on one of your cases. You find out your client, for example, had a prior crash and had the same identical MRI before.
Right.
It's a little bit of a problem. Defendant goes into bankruptcy, a little bit of a problem. And so what the cases are may change from month to month, but it's important to have them identified.
Right.
So once we identify, Mallory, what do we do next?
Then every month we set a big goal for those cases, like a big activity. So the big goal could be we're going to do a big 30B6 deposition. So there's a lot of little tasks that go into doing that big goal, right? So you don't just show up one day and do that deposition, right? You have to make sure you have the discovery that you need to do the deposition. You have to make sure that you've drafted the topics and sent out your notices. You have to make sure that you've reviewed all the discovery, picked out your exhibits, created your outline, found all of your anchors or all of your literature or all of the things that you want to use in the deposition, and strategized about it. So there's a lot of little steps that go to preparing for the big goal for the month. And so the idea is that you have the big goal and your little things are going to help you get to that big goal for the month. So your little weekly things are going to help you get there.
Yeah, so we have the big goal for the month, and then we have a weekly commitment. And the big goals are set when I meet with the docket lawyers. And then the little goals are set weekly. And the lawyer comes up with themselves, although I have from time to time not accepted them. Like if the big goal was going to be, we're going to answer discovery. Nope, that's not pushing the case forward. That's helping. That's the defense pushing their case forward. It's got to be something pushing our case forward. And then we hold each other accountable. So on every Friday at 4 o'clock, all the docket lawyers meet, and then we publicly go over, okay, this was your commitment from last week on these 3 cases. Did you do them? And then what do you commit to do next week?
Each year, the law firm of Cowen Rodriguez Peacock pays millions of dollars in co-counsel fees to attorneys nationwide on trucking and commercial vehicle cases. If you have an injury case involving death or catastrophic injuries and would like to partner with our firm, please contact us by calling 210-941-1301 to discuss the case in detail and see where we can add value in a partnership. And now, back to the show.
I think one of the hardest things for me is that if I'm setting a goal, usually it's a big goal. And so setting little goals for the week is hard for me. So when my goal is I want to do the 30B6 deposition this week, it's hard for me to refocus my priorities for just 1 week and say, okay, to get ready for that this week, Michael and Mallory are just going to have a brainstorm session about strategy, as opposed to getting all of the things I need to get done for that deposition that week. Because if you start to try to do all of it all at once, then again, you're going to have too many big rocks to fit in your jar. You're going to have too many things to do, and it's not going to get done. And so that's been, I think, Michael, you've had to tell me a few times, it's okay if the goal is to send a letter for the week, right? If the goal is to just do that letter so that next week you can file your motion to compel, then that's okay. Then that's the goal for the week. It doesn't have to be something huge. It just has to be something that's moving towards your big monthly goal.
Exactly. Because I was remembering, back when I had my own docket and I had my own cases, one of the things I'm not always the best person at being methodical. I'm more of a quick start, run real fast for a little while and then rest for a while. But one thing I did when I had a really big case, I would try to do something every week. And so that the defense would get something from me every week on the case, because it really did help set value. We were their squeaky wheel, plus we were always moving the case, and it never got forgotten when whatever our biggest case was. And so that was kind of my goal of doing that. And I will say, because one of your things for this week on one of our biggest cases was to meet with me to help get me ready for a deposition I'm going to take in a few weeks. I mean, the fact that it's not my natural character to start preparing for a deposition this far in advance, but it's going to be such a better deposition because I did.
Right.
And so, there's a huge value in that because it makes me be better prepared. It makes me think of things further in advance. And frankly, it's going to let me not be up past midnight the night before the depot reading through things and copying my own exhibits or printing my own exhibits because I didn't have someone else print them for me because I did it at the last minute. There's a lot of advantages to doing it that way.
Well, and then the reality is, too, when we met this week, even though we've met about this case tons of times, and it's our biggest case at the firm, we still came up with something new that we needed in discovery that it would be nice if we had it before the deposition. And if we hadn't have had this meeting, we wouldn't have even had a chance of getting it. I mean, we still don't, we still might not get it before the deposition, but even just setting aside that time in advance, now we think, oh, there's this other thing we could do. Oh, there's this other thing that we could do. And so we're constantly keeping it creative in that case, which is, I think, really important.
And if you're not doing it in advance, what happens is you're getting ready for trial. And you're like,
right.
I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Instead of we can do it now. It makes such a big difference. And unfortunately, unless you only have 3 cases, you can't do this on every case.
Right.
You need to give clients a level of representation. It's as good or better than anyone else is going to give them, and you can do that through systems and processes. But then you need to go say, but for my best ones, I'm going to go and make some extra time and dedicate that time to those cases to make sure that, those clients get the best possible results. And those are typically the ones that are the most hurt and where your work can do the most good. And it feels so much better to get life-changing recoveries for clients.
Yeah.
Than it does to, I got them some money. It was all right. We got the policy limits. We'll put a little money in their pocket, move on. I mean, that's fine. I mean, we do it, and it's needed, and it feels good, but not nearly as good as let's go meet with a financial advisor. You're going to buy a house. You're going to be taken care of for life. Let's make sure this money can last you for life as long as you're smart about it. Figure out how you're going to do that. That feels so much better.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, going back to giving each client the best representation for that client. It's not the best representation for every client. Every client has a different level of representation that's required, and you can overwork a small case, and that's not giving good representation to them, right? You can overspend it, you can do too much, and then the client could get a good recovery, but you've overworked it, and now you have to go try it, or now you have to do something where the client doesn't get as much as they could have gotten, and that's not giving them the best representation, overworking it.
Yeah, I had to have that conversation with a younger lawyer yesterday, and the other side wanted to mediate, and she's like, "Yeah, but don't we want to do these depositions first?" I said, "Well, let's look at the policy limits. If we mediate, if it's not going to settle for what we want, we don't have to take it. But if we do all these depositions, we risk not having enough money left in the client's pocket because there's competing claims. Their insurance limits may dwindle to the point where we've got a bunch of expenses and there's no money left for the client."
Right.
And so, like I said, every case has its own, every case needs a different level of effort and a different level of attention. And I think the whole point of this system, when we call it the momentum builder, I didn't want to just use rocks because then we have to go re-explain the analogy every time someone new joins. And it's just also nice to have our own and not steal from Gino Wickman and the EOS people. So we call it the momentum builder, which I think I stole from Crisp, but I pay them enough money where I don't feel bad taking their stuff. I think I got it from them. But yeah, we call it the momentum builder. I want to ask you another question, just from your point of view. How does it feel to be in a group where we're publicly calling each other out as to whether we've met our commitments or not every week?
It feels normal for me. We've been doing it for years now, so it's not something new that we do at the firm. When we first started doing it, it was very uncomfortable. Maybe was it 5 or 6 years ago where we first started having these kind of not public. Public with the lawyers, right. But accountability meetings. It felt uncomfortable.
It was June of 2018. I really remember it because we'd gone through a crisis and we were running out of money and we had to turn things around. It's imprinted in my brain.
Yeah. So it was uncomfortable at first, but now we've been doing it, for so long that it just feels like a normal activity that we do. But it also, we have a good group here that there's a lot of trust and a lot of, everybody feels like we're doing it to make each other better, not that we're trying to embarrass people or that we're trying to get one over on someone or anything. It's a good group, so we have a lot of trust and community that makes it helpful and useful. And so when you have that meeting, we're competitive, because we're lawyers, but we're competitive in that we don't want to bring the group down by being the only one that didn't do our commitment, right? Or that being the only one that's like an outlier. And so I think it just makes it more likely that you're going to get it done because you have to report to everybody whether you did it or not.
For people thinking about, maybe someone wants to think about trying this at your firm, what is some advice you can give to people to creating the type of culture where you can freely hold each other accountable in a way that's not going to run people off or I guess you do want to shame them a tiny bit, but not, not be toxic about it.
Right.
Where it becomes a negative instead of a positive.
Right. I mean, step one, and this is the most important step, is that the people at the top, the partners, the owner, whoever it is, depending on how your firm is structured, have to be willing to do it first. And, they have to put their accountability out there for other people to see. They have to participate actively in it. And if they're not going to meet the goal, other people, they're not going to think it's important, or it's going to feel like you're just getting after people as opposed to everybody is working together to lift each other up. If it's kind of top down as opposed to all together. So I think step one is, as the owner of the firm or the partner or the leaders of the firm have to be able to do it first and be held accountable by the group too. I think, is a big part of it. And then, the other part is that it's not toxic in a way that we don't harp on it. If you didn't meet your commitment, we say, well, damn, that sucks that you didn't meet your commitment. What happened this week, and how can we prevent that from happening next week so that we can make sure that we move forward? It's helping people figure out a system so it doesn't happen again, is kind of the strategy, right? So, you didn't get your letter out. Well, what happened? Oh, well, I got caught up in this. I got caught up in that. Well, what are we going to do about it next week? Are you going to set some time aside? Or, how are we going to make sure that this gets done next week? And it's more positive than it is like, well, you're awful and you can't be a top lawyer because you can never get anything done. And, it's about strategies rather than about shame, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's not totally about shame, but I think there is a little, honestly, I'm going to be radically candid here, as another book talks about. I think there is a little bit of shame to it. And I think it is important that you don't just blow it off. I mean, I think it is important to say that sucks, and especially if it's the first time, to not be just, we don't want to yell and scream at people or say, you're fired, or, but there is a big, why didn't you get this done? What was more important than your 3 biggest cases this week? Why didn't you plan? What did you do to set time aside? Why didn't you do this? What are you going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And then sometimes when people have tried to repeat, well, next week I'm going to do the same thing. No, you got to do a new one and this one, depending,
Right.
Depending on the situation. Sometimes I've let people carry over, but oftentimes say, no, you don't get a pass because you didn't do it this week. You have to get what you promised to do this week and do something new next week. Now, it can be something small, but you got to do something. And I'm finding that level, and I think a lot has to do with whether someone's a repeat offender or not. If someone is consistently not doing it, you need to be a little harder on them. And if people, if it's a one time, and if it's something real, like, well, I'd set this time aside, but then my kid broke his arm at school and I had to go pick up my kid. Okay. Well, it would have been nice if you could have found another time to do it, but I get it. That's you did everything right. Something totally out of your control happened, as opposed to, well, I just got busy.
Right.
Well, that's no. You got caught in the whirlwind.
Yeah.
The point of this is to get down in the tornado basement thing, so you're not going to get caught in the whirlwind, and you can do some work.
Yeah.
And so it's just really, I think there's a real coaching, but also creating a culture where people can take that coaching and accept. And it's hard to do, and part of it comes from us, and part of it's finding the person that's willing to accept it. That when we're coaching you, we're doing it because we care about you and we care about the firm. And I'm pretty, all of our docket lawyers that are in these meetings, they get a piece of what they kill. They get a percentage of what they bring in, and so it's like I'm not only trying to help me and the firm, I'm trying to help and the clients. I'm trying to help you make money.
Right.
And this is the way you're going to make your numbers this year and have the life you want, is by getting these things done. So we really have an alignment of interest, but sometimes that means that we have to tell each other the truth and not just be making excuses for each other. And, oh, well, you didn't get it done. Well, you didn't get it done. Well, we can just get a continuance. Well, we'll make the money next year. It's all right. Or we can just settle a little cheaper. It's okay. Like, no. At the same time, people hired us on something really important. They want to get it done. Our referring counsel, they want to get paid. They want to get it done. So we need to do the work, and that means we need to set the time aside to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, this process, I think I'm hoping it's teaching people a lot about delegation, because there are a lot of tasks that lawyers do that can be delegated to other people. But sometimes you just feel like, well, I could just do it real fast. Let me just do it. But you doing that real fast takes away your time from working on something bigger that only you can do, right? So
exactly.
I think it's really helps figure out, okay, where are the places where I should and can delegate? And I think we've talked about this before, that if it's something low stakes, like I'll give an example, preparing the supply boxes for trials, right? So something low stakes like that, preparing trial boxes for trial. Could I do an excellent job at getting all of our supplies together for trial? I would know exactly what I want. It's all going to be there. I will know it's there. Yes, I could. Is that a good use of my time before trial? It is not. And what happens if I don't have a yellow highlighter, which happened at the last trial, right? We get there, we had our trial box, there was no yellow highlighter in there, and I was freaking out because I was like, oh my God, I need to highlight this thing in yellow. There's no yellow highlighter. And Michael turns to me and goes, why can't you just use orange? I said, well, I mean, I guess I can, right? So it's a low stakes thing that definitely can be delegated. And what is the harm if it's not perfect? And if it's not, 100% as good as you can do it. So thinking about where can you use your time wisely and where can other people step in and help, even if you could do it better.
Yeah. I would much rather, I'm happy you spent your time working on your part of the opening statement and jury selection, even if you had to use an orange highlighter instead of a yellow. Now, next time we have a checklist. It will be a yellow highlighter next time, because that's what you like. Right. And you deserve to get what you like. But at the same time, it is important that you focus on the big things, because the small things just aren't as important. And
they get in the way of you doing the big things. I mean, I could spend a lot of time doing that, whereas that time is more wisely spent working on my opening statement.
I also found that there is a way that we tend to fall into what we're comfortable doing, even though it's not as valuable.
Yeah.
So for me, it was checking email. Writing a motion I could have delegated to someone else, because I can do it really easily. For some people, it's defending depositions, because no, it's got to be perfect, and I know I can do it. But you're also falling into something you already know how to do, rather than stretching and doing something that's uncomfortable, that's really going to add value to the case and help you grow as a better lawyer.
Yeah.
And I think another good thing about this process is it forces you to do those big things and get out of your comfort zone and delegate the things that someone else can do 80% as well as you can.
Right.
Because lots of people can put a trial box together 80% as well as you can.
Right.
There aren't many people that can pick a jury or give an opening or a closing 80% as well as you can. So.
Right. So I think identifying where you can add the most value. I think that's the hardest part of this process, is identifying where your time is best spent, and like you said, not slipping back into things that are easy. It's easy for me to answer discovery, and it's time consuming. I mean, it's easy, but it's time consuming, and it's easy to fall into, well, let me just do it because it'll be something I can check off my list for today, and it is something we have to do in the case, right?
Yeah.
I don't answer discovery because it takes a lot of time away from doing things that I can actually add value doing. Someone else.
And to be clear, we do answer discovery. You just don't do it personally.
Someone else at the firm does it for me, because can I do it? Yes. Can I do a good job of it? Yes. Does it take a lot of time? Yes. Does it move the ball forward in the case? No.
Not really. Yeah.
I mean, you have to do it, but it doesn't make your demand bigger or your strategy more scary to the other side or something.
To me, it was checking and responding to email. I could spend an hour or two going back and forth on emails, going through emails, and I can say, well, you see, I'm working, but I'm not doing anything productive. I'm not moving the ball forward. Responding, having my phone on, responding to text, doing busy work.
Right.
And just when I learned to not, let Reagan, my assistant, do the first pass over my email. And so it's really great. I still fall into, I'll open my email on my phone, and then I'll see them disappearing. Because she's deleting them because I didn't really need to read them. I mean, it's neat. But before I would have read all of them and, not reading listserv stuff as often. It's easy, like I said, to spend a lot of time doing things that aren't moving the ball forward. And then you can just tell yourself, well, hey, I'm working.
Right.
I'm putting the hours in. But then you're not really, I think I work fewer hours but get a lot more done now.
Right. Right.
I kind of want to, any more talk about this? I have another topic I'm thinking of a little bit. If you want, unless we have more to talk about on the Momentum Builder. If anyone wants a Momentum Builder form, by the way, just send us an email, michael@cowenlaw.com. We'll be glad to send it to you. It's not a whole lot to it. It's just like Momentum Builder. It's got a month, a name, your 3 biggest cases, your big thing you're going to do, and then what you're going to do every week. But if you want the form, you're welcome to it. One of our core values is that we share what we learn, so we're always happy to share with you. So again, michael@cowenlaw.com. Were you at the thing in Santa Fe this year?
The thing in Santa Fe.
The firm.
Oh, yes.
Retreat.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were. I know somebody missed it, but I thought you were there. We did. I don't know if your team's doing it yet. We did like a transformation exercise where we're talking about like where we want to be at the end of the year, and we picked goals for health, financial, for the firm-related stuff, skills that we want to build, family, and then anything other. I don't know if your team's doing it yet. I know I wanted to have it implemented, but my assistant and I are meeting monthly to go over our forms with each other. And to see where we are on actually doing that. So like my health was get back to exercising and lose 60 pounds. So every month I check in with Reagan and are you exercising? Where are you on weight loss? I want to have the firm meet certain revenue goals. I want to move our New Mexico firm to being profitable. I want to invest a certain amount of money. I want to hand things over to our new COO. I want to try cases. Want to get our courtroom finished so I can better train our team, and it's taken forever to get the furniture in. I already did this one. I wanted to go work with Sari de la Motte to get better at my trial skills. I'm reading a book every month on either business or trial, continue having difficult conversations, talking about what vacations I have, how often I'm going to see my son. And, I think it would be really easy to, at the end of the year, having to have not done half of it if I didn't have someone to check in with every month.
Yeah. Prioritizing yourself and your own time is something that I've always been a big advocate of. You've known that about me from the beginning, is making sure that my work time is my work time and my family and my home time or just rest time is just that. And I will say that organizing your day, planning a strategy for how you're going to attack your work helps you have that time. I mean, it helps you be able to do all of the other things that you want to do, whether it's financially, whether it's for health, whether it's spending time with your family or seeing your son. If you can't get a hold on your out of control work schedule, then you can't get a hold on any of the rest of it. And you start to just live in chaos. So.
Yeah. And I think you're, like before you had a baby, you were really good about sketching like before you got married, you had your girls trips every so often. And then, you do your, you'd always set aside, you work really hard and then you set aside your personal time.
Right.
And I think it's one of the secrets to your success, honestly, is that balance. And I will tell you that, like, if I ever call you or text you or email you on your personal time, like, I feel so guilty about it because I know it's like I really hesitate to do it, as opposed to other people I know. They work all the time. I just give them a call.
Yeah.
So like Alex Begum, who's my partner of the New Mexico firm, I mean, he's 24/7 on. So like, he can be in Aspen and I'll send him an email saying, and he'll still respond in 10 minutes. Whereas with you, like I would, unless like the building was on fire, I'm not going to send you an email when you're on vacation because I know that that's your time and it'll wait. And
yeah. And, having partners and employees that respect that is important too. And setting up those boundaries to make sure that it's respected. I mean, we respect Michael's time when he goes on vacation too. We're not reaching out to him constantly. Now he reaches out to us sometimes just to check in.
Yeah.
But the reality is that there's nothing in this business typically that's an emergency that someone else can't handle. And if it is that, then people around you know how to identify that kind of emergency and only reach out to you if it truly is something only you can handle, right? But you have to teach people how to identify that stuff. Otherwise, they'll call you all the time about everything.
And I try to go on vacation without taking my cell phone or checking my email. And part of that is having good systems and having someone checking it for me. Part of that is just telling y'all, like, I'll trust you to make the decisions. If I disagree with it, we may have like a friendly conversation, but I'll live with it because I'm willing to risk a slightly different decision than one I would have made for the freedom of being able to enjoy myself. And a dirty little secret, when I call to check in, it's usually not because I'm worried about work. It's because I need a break from my family. I love them, but, sometimes you just need to get away from the family drama and have a little bit of a less stressful work conversation.
Well, and, the reality, too, is that we love what we do. I mean, we're lucky because we love the work that we do. So sometimes it is enjoyable just to do work too. So when I was on maternity leave, like one of my things that I would do to relax on maternity leave is I would snoop at what's going on cases. Even though nobody expected me to do it, everybody thought I wasn't doing it. I would do it sneakily. And if I found something or saw something, I would email Michael, privately, so people didn't think they could reach out to me. But I mean, that was like my downtime, was checking up on cases while I was on maternity leave. So it's because we love what we do and we care a lot about what we do and care a lot about the clients and about the people that work at this firm. So we want to make sure it's successful.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, building a good team, but then, getting a clear focus and then holding each other accountable to make sure that we're all moving towards those goals that we're setting and we're agreeing to. I really think that's the secret to success. I know it's worked really well for us. I mean, our average and median fee have gone up substantially every year since we started doing this. And just success begets success. We're able to be even pickier on the cases we accept because we get good results in a faster time, which leads to happier referral lawyers. And it's been a wonderful thing. And then we have just such a great crew of people here now that all are pulling together and everyone's succeeding, and it's just really a great thing. And you can do that at your firm too, for all the listeners. I'm not just saying this just to brag. It's not like we have some utopia. It's just we consciously work at it constantly, and if you do the same thing at your firm, you can have the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. It takes effort. It's not something that you can just necessarily fall into. You have to think about it, be intentional about building the culture and priorities that you care about at your firm.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's been a good discussion. Before we come off, I want to go do just a quick pitch for the Big Rig Boot Camp, July 12th. It's going to be at the La Cantera Resort in San Antonio, Texas. It's going to be a great program. It's super cheap. We actually spend more money on it than we charge. We put on a really nice show, good food, good drinks. So we charge a little bit to defray that cost, but it's going to be a fantastic program. If you'd like to check it out, it's bigrigbootcamp.com. Just go online, go bigrigbootcamp.com. You can register, and I'd love to see you there and come by and say hi while we're there. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again on the next episode of Trial Lawyer Nation. Thank you for joining us on Trial Lawyer Nation. I hope you enjoyed our show. If you'd like to receive updates, insider information, and more from Trial Lawyer Nation, sign up for our mailing list at triallawyernation.com. You can also visit our episodes page on the website for show notes and direct links to any resources in this or any past episode. To help more attorneys find our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on any of our social media outlets. If you'd like access to exclusive, plaintiff lawyer-only content and live monthly discussions with me, send a request to join the Trial Lawyer Nation Insider Circle Facebook group. Thanks again for tuning in. I look forward to having you with us next time on Trial Lawyer Nation.
Each year, the law firm of Cowen Rodriguez Peacock pays millions of dollars in co-counsel fees to attorneys nationwide on trucking and commercial vehicle cases. If you have an injury case involving death or catastrophic injuries and would like to partner with our firm, please contact us by calling 210-941-1301 to discuss the case in detail and see where we can add value in a partnership. This podcast has been hosted by Michael Cowen and is not intended to, nor does it create the attorney-client privilege between our host, guest, and any listener for any reason. Content from the podcast is not to be interpreted as legal advice. All thoughts and opinions expressed herein are only those from which they came.